is Monday. I am Servigiano Alexander. And if you don't know, welcome to the Making Mogul Hour. We are here, we are live, and we got you because today, on the eve of one of my favorite months, I have one of my favorite people here that has inspired me in my journey in the cannabis industry. Once again, this is the Making Mogul Hour where you either win with us or you watch us win, baby. And I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Because if you in New York and you know cannabis culture, you know Happy Monkey. So I need you to give a big round of applause. Oh, that's not the round of applause. That's my big round of
Let's go.
applause.
Let's go.
For my guy Ramon
Thank you,
Reyes.
man. Thank you, sir.
Clap
Thank
it
you,
up,
sir.
clap it up, clap it up. All
I
of y'all at
appreciate it.
home, I hope y'all ready for this conversation, okay? Because
go.
this is an amazing one. Shout out to my guy. First and foremost, this man right here is not a mogul in the making. This is a man that's made himself a mogul. And I need y'all to tap in because this is what'll make you a mogul in the making, okay? So we're gonna get into this conversation. As y'all know, we here from 7 to 8 every day on the Making Moguls platform. And we give them real gems, real actionable results so that you can get where you need to get so that you can win. Because as I said, you either win with us or you watch us win. So let's get into this conversation, man. How you doing today? How you
What's
feeling?
up,
How
my
you
brother?
feeling?
I appreciate that, man. That was a big intro. That was a
I gotta let the people know.
heartwarming, humble intro, my brother. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course, of course. We've come a long way, both of us on our separate journeys. And I'm happy to sit here with you, happy to celebrate your success. We enter in 420, and I'm telling you, there's not many brands that have stepped up, not many culturally relevant people have stepped up in this industry, especially in this legacy to legal industry that has made a name for themselves in a way that both transcends the legacy market and still makes waves in the legal market. So I want to start by saying, what does Happy Monkey mean to you?
Wow. So in the beginning, you know, Happy Monkey was basically it is was that path from legacy to legal, right? Without even titling it yet. You know what I'm saying? Because it was a moment where we was already legacy. There was not really much to kind of like go there. You know what I mean? It's like, and most of our friends is again, I'm in my 40s, so a lot of my friends that are older than me, the OGs, they barely don't exist. They dead, locked up, deported, you know, or they walking around with like they heads blown, like they feel like their heads, they ain't make it through the war. You know what I mean? It's like
They got all that PTSD in
they
them,
got
girl.
so you kind of see it, So when Happy Monkey was born, it was a moment of like instead of like, I remember at that time, 2017, 2016, 2018, the brands were coming out, but the brands were coming out like this like tough situation. And I was like, that's
Yep.
not, So it was kind of like a moment in time and space that I created with my guys to like have a moment in time with people, right? Because really it started as a brand and really events, right? It was a speakeasy. So it was really more about, bringing people from all over the world together because that's what I experienced and I wanted people to experience that too, right?
Okay.
And it kind of gave us a path to legalization. We met and became advocates, right? So it was like these are things that gave us the path to that legal, right? Because now we wanted it. It's not like it definitely fell in our lap, but we was looking for it. Also, we just didn't know it, right? So it kind of we did it with Happy Monkey because we wanted to spread vibes. We wanted to spread toughness and grimeness and like the shit that we already like was experiencing. It wasn't. It didn't make any sense for us to kind of like create something that's kind of gonna go down that same route.
And I love that because I'm glad that we started right there in that 2015, 2016, 2017 era because that's where you guys really cultivated the vibe of the community, right? Y'all had the speakeasy over there in Times Square. Y'all had like and I have to give y'all flowers because from the beginning, you guys were so about community. You guys were always welcoming other brands. You guys were
Mm-hmm.
always welcoming for other people to use your space. You guys were always welcoming to support people. Again, how we met was I was launching Canna Baddies. You guys came in, you guys supported it, and
Mm-hmm.
it really gave us the boost to really step into and feel confident in doing what we was doing. So even before I started Canna Baddies and I knew about Happy Monkey, again, it was always a welcoming vibe. And so you guys had been through a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like you guys had trouble with the law, you guys had your spot taken, you guys, you know, but you guys persevered. In a way that a lot of other people, I don't know if it's, I would say it's a mix between they don't know how to step through and they don't have the commitment to it. So what was it that got you through those difficult times before we got into now what Happy Monkey is?
Well, I think a lot of these groups and a lot of these people were formed after like they wanted like some sort of partnership with us. We were bonded by blood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We bonded by the streets. It was a little bit different. You know what I mean? It was a
Mm-hmm.
little bit different code with each other. We was already watching our back in a different type of manner. So now with this, it was just like, all right, cool. Like this is a different way, right? This is a
Mm-hmm.
different lane. As long as you got my back, I got yours. We go just jump in and we go figure this shit out, right? And plus, it's being with people that do want to kind of like not necessarily progress or get better, right? It's just evolve, right, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
learn, right? So it's a new thing happening. Either we learn, or you get burned. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Learn
like
to get burned, baby.
we learn and you progress and you keep moving and be lucky to have good partners and kind of like be able to move forward when things are moving forward because things move and sometimes a lot of people don't understand that something is about to move and it ain't my job to kind of like explain to the world at the moment that things is
Uh-huh.
about to change. So you go ahead and kind of like make that change, and then you go ahead and let people feel it and see it, and that's it, really, man. It's really hard to kind of like you know learn that in the legal world. You know what I'm saying? To
Uh-huh.
kind of get that, get those find those people, right? Because that's a big deal, and I see that now, and I see all these like TikTok quotes and like Instagram moments with the Gary V's and all that shit, right? Because their whole
Mm-hmm.
thing is now is learning how to like get a team, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing you can't do this shit alone,
Uh-huh.
and and being vocal, right? That was another thing, right? For us to be vocal and to be public was a very like a no thing, right? Like
Uh-huh.
especially in the whole world that we
Especially in
lived
the
in.
uh-huh.
So being able to just kind of like come out your comfort zone, and I know that's really hard for anybody, for everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean like coming from the streets to get into the legal world, but anybody in the world, it's hard to come and like speak publicly
Mm-hmm.
or do anything, right? So just kind of like getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, and you ain't gonna like it a little bit, but that's as plain as I could say.
I like that. I like that. And you tapped on the nail on the head really, really importantly because it is about making a team and it is about not just like recognizing the moment because I feel like there's a few brands, it's a few brands that was able to recognize that moment in 2019, 2020, 2021, right? A lot of people, and I feel like we both have a very similar space in that we saw where the market was gonna go. We turned to our people and was like, yo, this is where the market is gonna go. And people were so comfortable in where they were or didn't see the real opportunity to transition
Mm-hmm.
that now that we here moving in the legal market, moving with complete different brands, different things, everybody's like, oh, how did you? But it's not a how did you because the time was here, the time
Mm-hmm.
been here,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really about taking that next step, right? And you guys were very big in advocacy and stepping out of your shells to represent not only your brand, but like you guys went to Albany, you guys were again
Yeah.
doing real advocating, so it made so much sense that you guys position yourself. And we talk a lot about positioning on the show. You guys really position yourself as one of the voices coming out of New York, especially coming out of Uptown,
Mm-hmm.
where it really felt like you guys had the whole movement behind y'all as y'all, stepped into that spot. And as you said, a lot of people are afraid to step into that spotlight, and especially
And
as it was
mm-hmm.
transitioning. So how were you able to cultivate that movement while taking such a risk?
Honestly, it wasn't. We wasn't really trying to cultivate a movement, right? We was just being us
Mm,
and kind of like giving you what New York cannabis looked like. Because at the time there was no um, presence of like big New York, right? Because as far as cannabis, people get caught up in like the growers, and I get it because without there's no weed without the growers. There's no life without the growers, right?
mm-hmm.
So shout out to the growers. But there was no, and not saying but and there was like a missing piece to it because this is New York, and in the city that there is not a lot of grower talk, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
it was more about like, yo, how can we kind of like have a space where people can be themselves? And I wasn't even trying to like just like target the hippie crowd. I was just trying to target anybody who's fly in New York. You know what I mean? Like it
Mm-hmm.
didn't even really matter. And as long as you smoke, and you was over an age limit, and that's another thing. We were already doing that before people even thought about that, right? So the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing is that we wanted that whole consumption lounge vibe to kind of spread through New York, right? Because we kind of
Mm-hmm.
wanted it. I think people at the time were kind of thinking like we wanted it to ourselves, but it was more like we wanted everybody to kind of do their thing and kind of like have events and make this a normal thing because weed is still such a big stigma about
Mm-hmm.
smoking and not people not being productive. And it's like, no, mostly a lot of people in New York City smoke a lot of weed. What the fuck you talking about?
And New York
Right?
still move,
So
baby.
now, and look, now we legal. We in 2026, and the shit is moving, and there's dispensaries all over the place. People smoking all over the place. There's no lack of work going on in the city. So,
Nope.
we
The city didn't slow down not a single bit.
so the people as a whole were right, right? It's not. It wasn't just us. It's just the people as a whole were right that weed wasn't. The stigma was bullshit, and
Mm,
weed is not a product. It doesn't take away your productivity.
that's a fact. And I love that. I love that you guys stood for that and your brand continued to build upon that. Because one of the things I really enjoyed, because I don't want to stay too long on this part of it, but I really want to say, again, just to give you the flowers and how you guys cultivated this brand, the Happy Monkey speakeasies was always filled with a multicultural set of people. And that was so beautiful, especially in that time, because that was the era of sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the sessions was all just trappers and tables, trappers
Mm-hmm.
and tables, trappers and tables. And that's
Yeah.
all you was getting, right? And so again, your brand helped inspire our brand in terms of we didn't want to just do sessions and tables.
Yeah.
Like
No.
we had tables at our first event, but it was a whole brunch, it was a whole puff and paint, and we
Right.
always wanted to make sure we created multiple avenues of things so that again it felt different. And we took a lot of inspiration for what you guys was doing because you guys were setting up events in a way and giving spaces for people to set up events in a way that was giving culture, was giving a lot of authentic authenticity in the space where a lot of people was just all brands and
Mm-hmm.
all just I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that, and people weren't really about the culture, right? And so the next thing I want to talk about is in this transition, right? I want to before I even ask you how you transition, right? The first thing I want to ask is how was you able to maintain that culture in a legal space? Because in this 2026 now, your brand is not the only brand that's went from legacy to legal,
Hell no. Hell no. Hell no.
but
Thank
your
God.
brand is
Thank
one of
God.
the thank
Yeah.
God, because we
Yeah.
definitely need more, not less, in this
Yeah.
space, and people do
One
not
hundred percent.
understand that.
Yeah.
But on the same space though, it's not many people that was able to transition without losing that authenticity. A lot
Fact.
of people transition and either fell to the wayside because they were so focused on the plant and not the community and the people they're selling it to, or they were so happy to then fall into the same trap of, oh, it's flashy marketing, oh, he's putting money behind celebrities and this and that. And again, my gripe about the cannabis industry, now everybody that's ever watched the show can always hear, New York City is a city with so much culture, but because of the marketing dollars that back New York, and I expect it, it's the Empire State, so much people just know big flashy brands, and
Mm-hmm.
so much of New York culture gets flushed under the watch, and everybody has such an opinion on dispensary weed and
Mm-hmm.
this, that, and the third, and nobody's actually tried anything.
Mm-hmm.
They just heard from five people, oh nah, this shit is whack, and now everybody think it's, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no like everybody just, oh, I'm following this big brand, so cookies dropping, oh this is dropping, I'm over there, and it's few people that's able to step into the space and retain that culture and retain that authenticity. So how was you guys able to transition from the legacy to the legal space without losing yourselves in the process?
Okay.
That was a loaded one. I had to pull up some more questions. So I was like, hold on. Let me
All right,
make sure I
all
hit
right.
him with a good one.
Well, I, I, I don't know if I could give you like a definitive answer, right? Like this is exactly how it went down, and this is how it went down, right? I think we just being yourself is just naturally just being yourself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when these opportunity arises or a situation arises, it's handling it the best that you can, um, either whether it's aggressively or whether it's nice. You just got to continue to be yourself, right? We didn't necessarily try to change any of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What changed with us was time, right? Because if in the beginning I'm in my 30s, and now I'm in my 40s, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna approach things the same way I did at 33, 34 that I am now at 43. You know what I mean? It's a different situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think people get caught up in like people growing up and like losing a little bit of the culture. But it's like, yo, I'm just exactly who I am, and I'm gonna carry this old school New York vibe. Um, Not necessarily being pigheaded or stubborn, just knowing that I like what I like, and I'm never gonna follow or chase brands because that's what we grow up on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
New York is New York. Like I don't, you know, I'm not following somebody else's trends. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna create mine. There's celebrities on my block. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like this New York, we ain't gonna don't play with
Don't play with it, bro.
don't play with it. You know what I mean? And like my little homie, could dress his ass off. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I ain't go like I'm not looking at celebrities for for fashion advice and
Mm-hmm.
like
Or validation or
or
none of that.
validation for anything of what I'm eating or anything of what I like to smoke or any of this. You know what I mean? Like I can't like I'm never gonna do that, but I can always give you my honest opinion on what I like. If it happens to be according to what you like as well, then it is what it
But
is.
it is what it
But
is.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I like this because someone else influenced me. I could tell you that people do influence me in life. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And most of the time, it be people that I know is not necessarily a celebrity or something like that. But it's most people, the people that I look up to, is the people that I know. You know what I'm saying? And I give them their credit and I give them their shout outs if they put me on to something. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why I feel like they deserve it. But just keeping authentic to my people, is basically what it is. And keeping authentic to my situation, keeping authentic to whatever the situation is happening at the moment. Um, Bro, like I think people put too much science into trying to be themselves and or trying to impress. And I
Mm-hmm.
think just sometimes just let the shit flow. Um, I'm lucky to have partners to bounce back with, and sometimes we argue and we disagree, and we get to figure out what's next for us and what's not. You know, we definitely tap into the culture as well, right? You know what I mean? If I gotta listen to my nephews and my nieces and all that shit, and I listen to opinions, and they're like, "Yo, bro, you bugging out," you know what I mean? I listen to that as well, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
know also is moving forward is also kind of like being able to evolve with whatever the technology is. Look, bro, I just changed my phone, so I got no access to nothing. But I just changed my phone from I was rocking the 12, and I went to go change my phone, and they up to number 17. And they looked at
Uh-huh.
me. I'm like, yo, bro. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, all right.
Uh-huh.
So
I just went from the 22 to the 26.